We've been talking about this quite a bit on the Nerve, and I was told go speak to Lady Colin Campbell about this. There are some of us in America, most in the media, it's a quiet theorizing, but we've begun to discuss it openly on the Nerve. That when Meghan Markle's father Thomas inevitably dies, her likely next move, just our opinion, our theory, will be to accuse him of having sexually molested her. And she will say that was the reason why she had to cut him out of her life entirely, even really having almost next to no contact with him following the amputation of his leg in the Philippines. I understand you have a story that tracks alongside that.
Absolutely. In When I was writing Meghan and Harry, the real story, uh, in it would have been January 2020, Thomas Markle appeared on, I think it was ITV.
Mm-hmm.
And right afterwards, I got a phone call from a very good friend of mine who is very closely connected to Meghan and Harry. And I can't say more than that because we're speaking about household names. And I don't want to give away the identities of the people involved. And said, "Oh, Harry wants you to know that the reason why Meghan can't ever reconcile with her father is," and the person was so embarrassed that they couldn't actually get it out at first. So I said, "Well, I'm sorry, I can't elicit information from you. You need to cough it up cleanly." And finally, they spluttered out that Harry had said that, according to Meghan, her father interfered with her, which I gather is a British way of saying something that in America they say slightly differently.
Oh, the
But
Catholics say interfered when talking about, say, errant clergy, who have abused minor children. Yeah. So this source, who you say is impeccably placed, uh, came to you while you were writing the book. Do you know if Harry and Meghan were aware that you were writing this book about them?
oh yes, they've been leaking me information that they thought would be favorable to them.
Oh, so their camp had been leaking you information.
Yeah.
And did the source for this come from their camp?
Oh yes, yes. Uh,
Okay.
they're,
Okay.
they're, I can't say who it is, but if I mentioned the name, it would immediately ring huge bells with
Okay.
you. And they, and so there was no doubt that it was genuine. And I absolutely went ballistic because I knew it wasn't true. Because
Really?
I don't know if you know it. Ask Morgan and Belinda. They'll tell you I have a terrible temper.
Oh, you're speaking of friend of the Nerve, Belinda Carlisle, and her husband,
Yeah,
Morgan Mason, who are friends of yours as well.
yeah.
So how did you know, Lady Colin, how did you know that this claim, how were you able to just sort of swat it away with complete confidence?
Well, because in my research for the book, I had seen Meghan endlessly praise her father, how wonderful a father he was. There's that famous appearance that she does on the United Nations stage where
Mhm.
Hillary Clinton is in the audience and she's telling everybody what a wonderful father she had. I think that was in about 2015 or 2016. What a wonderful father she had. And how everybody should have such a wonderful father, and how her father had done blah, 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 da, da, da for her. And on the TIG and on Working Girl, which was the one before,
Her
she was
blogs,
constantly, sorry?
her blogs, you mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
She was constantly praising her father. So I knew immediately that it could not be true. And I actually screamed and ranted and raved like a lunatic down the phone to the friend of mine who was the liaison and said, "You can tell Harry that if he thinks that he's going to pull what his mother tried to pull on me and failed, he's going to fail even worse than she did because it's cack-handed, it's obviously false, blah, blah, blah." And as soon as we hung up, I phoned Hope Dillon, who was my American publisher at
Hmm.
St. Martin's. And I phoned Hope and spoke to her. And I said, this is outrageous. And I want you to be aware of it. And I phoned up my English publisher and told him as well. And I said, this is, I said, this woman is insupportable. This is just, I was so outraged, I can't tell you. And and we then had the challenge of including it in the book in such a way that they wouldn't be able to try to muzzle me. And so we took legal advice, and it's in the book, the last 3 or 4 pages of the book. So I mean, so she's been trying that on for size since 2020. Because
Lady Colin, at what point, because January 2020, if I recall correctly, was when they announced Megxit. Did this information come directly to you prior to that news being announced or after?
I can't, it depends. I can't remember when Megxit was.
I don't remember the exact date either.
It was, but this, I remember it was just after Thomas Markle had given an interview to, I think it was the ITV, at the end of January. So it might have just been after Megxit was announced. I'm not 100% sure. I don't remember.
What are your theories, Lady Colin, as to why Meghan hasn't continued to try to seed this accusation against her father throughout other biographies or well-sourced articles?
Well, I think she would be very ill-advised to do it because she knows that was I was the first port of call, and I refused to allow the ship to dock because I knew it contained contaminated produce. And she also knows that I know her father and her brother and sister. And I think if she tries to float it, well, I don't know if she'll ever float it. I mean, I know everybody supposes she's going to try to float it when he's dead. And she might well try to float it in some version while he's dead. But she's sort of been quite careful about not floating it, but somehow letting everybody know it's there. Because Meghan is very sneaky and she has ways and means of getting her point across so that you have said it as opposed to she having said it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, she does that all the time. It's her favorite parlor trick. Now, Lady Colin, since you know Thomas Markle, her father, he must be aware that she has tried to float this accusation.
Oh, absolutely. I spoke to him about it.
And what did he say?
Well, he is, I have to tell you, I have so much sympathy for him. He is a living King Lear, and she is Goneril and Regan rolled into one. And if Goneril sounds like something very communicable and nasty, I think there's a good reason why. And I told, he knows, and in fact, last year, I think it was, maybe earlier this year, I can't remember now, because I've been so drug-addled recently since my accident.
I'm so sorry to hear about your accident. I hope you're on the mend. You look wonderful.
Thank you. I am. By the way, your hair looks great.
Thank you. Thank you.
And so I think it's either earlier this year or late last year. I think it might have been earlier this year. One of the royals phoned me up who had already intervened in the Samantha case. Sorry. And had said to me in the Samantha case, you need to tell Samantha Markle that the state of Florida is both the inquisitorial and the other system legally, because it's partly Code Napoleon and partly British common law, and that she can subpoena Harry to give evidence against Meghan in the state of Florida. So this person it's a royal, and they're very clued up, and they're very knowledgeable about the law, or well, they have access to, and they're quite determined to see that Meghan is not going to prevail. And they phoned me up and said, you need to tell Thomas Markle that he needs to, and there's some mechanism, I've forgotten what it's called, where you do a taping, like a videotape, but it's done in a legal situation. And he needs to do this while he's healthy enough. And he needs to have it so that when he's dead, she can't, because they thought she was going to definitely come up with this. So I rang him up and I told him, and he said his response. He said, oh, he'd do it, but I sort of thought he was just brushing me off or palliating me. I didn't think he was really going to do it. And then he said to me, and please don't tell Tom and Samantha. So I didn't. But of course, now that all of this has happened, I'm coming clean on it, because so that they will all know, and that Meghan will know, that there are people out there who are on to her and who are quite determined that she is not going to dump on her father from a great height. And
I love that you've come forward, that you're talking to us on the nerve. You know, when we first began discussing this on the show a couple of weeks ago, that was one of the most common refrains. Has Thomas Markle left something either on videotape or in writing legally in which he is declaring that any accusation regarding any sort of sexual interference with Meghan as a child is categorically false?
Well, I have never used the word sexual, nor has he. We've just used the word interference. Because she could, who knows, and Meghan's very resourceful, and she can come up with, so whatever. So let's not restrict it to, although I'm sure that you're actually onto the real thing, but still, let's, for the sake of clarity, stick to what it is. He said he was going to do it. I never chased it up with him. It's up to him. I get in touch with him. I tell him he knows the status of the person who's doing it. He knows I'm trustworthy. And he says to me, please don't let Tom and Samantha know about this. So I hope he's done it. I hope he's done it. He was in Mexico at the time. That I remember. He wasn't in the Philippines.
Have you had a chance to speak to him in the aftermath of his surgery?
No, because I've been too ill as well.
Yes, of
I've
course.
spoken to Tom and I've spoken to Samantha, but not to him. And quite frankly, it's been enough for me to speak to them without speaking to him, because with my illness and his illness, it would be a little bit much.
Could you give us a sense, Lady Colin, of what Tom Jr. and Samantha Markle think of their half-sister Meghan refusing to see her father, and to have finally sent a letter, which in sum and substance we in America understand by all reports was to say, there will be no reconciliation in the cards, amputation or no?
They are outraged. They can't believe that any human being would behave like this. And I have to say, I'm not surprised that she's done it, because I've come across Meghan's before. But I think she's a very unsophisticated operator. Had she been cleverer, she would have done something she's burying herself. I said it in the original version of my book, which was published in spring 2020. what she'd done with her father and was continuing to do with her father would ultimately be her downfall. And so it is proving to be, because people all over the world, black, white, rich, poor, grand, humble, Catholic, Muslim, Protestant, doesn't matter. Most people have a sense of family. Most people understand that families are not perfect. Many people even actively dislike or loathe their family, but they do not dump on them from a great height. And even if they were going to do it privately, they would have sufficient dignity and self-respect to not do it publicly. And Meghan is so delusional that she has done it publicly as well. And I said it all along, and I have got most likely by now hundreds of thousands of comments from people relating to this. And this is her biggest sticking point, will always be. And I think it's irretrievable now. I think unless she said, oh, I've entered a 12-step program, I had so many problems, I was out of my mind, and now I've turned over a new leaf, and Daddy, please forgive me. I think she has destroyed her reputation. I don't know what you think, but I think she is irretrievably damaged.
I could
And
not agree with you more, Lady Colin. And I think even if she were to attempt some kind of reputational rehab in that vein, it wouldn't work because she is so disliked here. She is so disliked. And every time she sort of tries to worm her way into another power center here in the entertainment industrial complex, all she does is make enemies. You know, she most recently did it here. She attended the party for Kris Kardashian that was thrown by Jeff Bezos and his wife, Lauren Sanchez. And she and Harry instantly made enemies of them after that party by demanding that they remove all photos of the two of them from social media. She is her own worst enemy. And I don't think anyone in America will forgive her. You know, it's so true what you say, the lack of cleverness, the lack of being able to play chess rather than checkers. She's got a Netflix holiday special streaming on Netflix. It's only a few weeks old. It dropped the same day her father went into the hospital. You cannot sell yourself as a provider of a loving home and hearth at the holiday season and allow your father to languish in an ICU in the Philippines with his leg freshly amputated and think people are going to buy what you are selling.
Well, certainly not if you behave the way she did. I mean, I know people who've had terrible relationships with their parents. My father, for instance, spent much of my teenage trying to convince me to commit suicide.
Oh,
And I
God.
forgave him. And, I forgave him and I understood why he did it. I mean, people are human. And what Thomas Markle did was actually a setup by Meghan with Jeff Rayner using Samantha to get to her father so that Jeff Rayner could upstairs. The dog is
It's okay.
is rocking the boat.
Get up
And
there, doggy.
to get so convincing uh, Samantha to convince Thomas Senior that the way to restore his dignity was the setup that Jeff Rayner
You're
organized. And
talking
Jeff
about those
Rayner,
paparazzi photos?
yeah,
The
yeah,
ones that she said were the final straw. She had to cut him off. He
yeah,
was trying to exploit her and her
yeah,
marriage into the royal family, and that was it. She had to protect her new marriage.
yeah.
So you're saying, Lady Colin, that that was all actually, as far as you know, orchestrated by Meghan herself.
That's what her father and her sister think.
Wow.
That's what they think. That's
Wow.
what they've told me. And it certainly seems perfectly reasonable. And also, let's face facts. What was he doing that was so terrible? He was trying
Agreed.
to restore his dignity that she, by her inaction, by refusing Buckingham Palace's offer to have advice and uh, assistance for both parents. She accepted it on behalf of her mother and she refused it on behalf of her father, knowing he would be exposed, knowing he would be mocked by the press. And then when he tries to restore his dignity, it's exposed as a setup, which, according to her father and her sister, they believe she set it up with Jeff Rayner to to create the crisis that was indeed created and that would prevent Thomas Markle Sr. from coming to the wedding.
So just to be clear, the setup that you're talking about that you believe Meghan set up, was that the paparazzi photo taken of Thomas carrying the beer outside of,
Yes.
okay. And then
And
Thomas
doing the
attempted
push-up,
to
doing the
rehabilitate
push-up,
that.
yeah, doing the
But
push-up and being fitted for the suit, yeah.
okay,
And
okay.
and so, but what's so terrible about that? And even if he got paid, so what? Look at how much money she and Harry have got paid for doing far. And let's remember, Meghan and Harry's betrayal of his family has been exceedingly toxic and destructive. What was Thomas Markle doing that was so destructive? Trying to preserve his dignity. There was nothing destructive about it. Well, look at the lies Meghan and Harry have told about Charles, Catherine, the rest of the family, the British people, and the way she has mocked and belittled and denigrated for the spectacle, the wedding that cost £30 million, that had everybody so enthusiastic. I mean, it was a great cause of celebration in this country. And she snared and mocked as if, who are these ghastly little people? I, the great Meghan Markle. And it was just a spectacle that I was going to have to endure for the people, the masses, the trash, because I'm so great and grand. Am I not demure? I'm just like Julia Roberts in movies. I mean, I'm sorry, the woman is insupportably dreadful.
I'm going to tell you about a new documentary that I've recently watched. It's called Thank You, Dr. Fauci, and it is a deep dive into the origins of COVID-19, a potential bioarms race with China, and what could be the biggest public health deception in modern history. Award-winning filmmaker Jenna Furst pores over documents and grills scientists, intelligence experts, and whistleblowers. This is not a left-wing or a right-wing film. It is a film about accountability. This is a compelling investigative work. It is urgent, it is unsettling, eye-opening, and is now streaming on Angel Studios. It is a must watch. If you have ever wondered, as all of us do, what really goes on behind closed doors, you will not want to miss this. Most alarming, the layers of institutional secrecy and the courage it takes to challenge those. Angel Studios is the only platform bold enough to release this, thanks to Guild members who vote on real stories. It's already available on Angel, so be ready to watch, question, and share. If you are ready to demand transparency, join the Angel Guild at angel.com/nerve. Become a member, stream Thank You, Dr. Fauci, and be part of the conversation demanding truth and accountability.